Aldo, thank you for joining us on Social Impact Allies Impact Stories.
Nice.
You have the distinction of being maybe the first video-based impact story.
That's great. I love video.
Yeah, rumor is you do. So speaking of which, great transition. You have had a career in community activism, in film, in video, in the private sector, in the government sector, in the not-for-profit sector. But right now we're talking about kind of social impact and where you see yourself in what we call this kind of new category today. So who are you, Aldo Bello, in social impact?
My parents came here in 1974. So they're both Chilean. And so I'm a first generation citizen of Chilean parents and an immigrant from Chile, obviously. And I was 12 years old when they came to the DC area, and kind of telling you that because one of the things that has kind of propelled me into community action and social impact is that I am a first generation citizen, but Hispanic Latino immigrant here in the United States. And some of what's been happening in the news recently, as well as over the past few years, is of deep concern to me. And therefore, I started doing some work in that arena. Before doing work in that arena, I started a company with my wife in the DC area called Mind and Media. It's a full service communications company, and we do a lot of work with government agencies, nonprofits, some commercial entities, and we do a lot of work with strategy up front and then media delivery on the back end, depending on what kind of a campaign it is that the client wants. My background is as a filmmaker. And one of the things that I did recently, well, as of about 4 years or 5 years ago, is I finished a documentary on a dreamer by the name of Juan Gomez. The documentary's name is Dream, an Immigration Story. And one of the things that it brought to the fore for me is that even though film is great and video is great for awareness, I went on a nationwide tour with this film. It kind of left me wondering about the next few steps that people can take after watching the film, which always seem rather insufficient in screenings that are held in theaters. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about for a long time now is how do you get people to take the next action steps after they become aware of an issue?
That's great. And, that is tricky, right? We know of some of the films that really stood out, and impact films that really stood out that we can say right out of the gate made a change. But I know, knowing you personally, that that film and media in and of itself kind of fell short, and you've always been looking for that way of bringing together the live community involvement with the film. And so tell us about Ideas. It's extremely exciting. It's been great to get to kind of learn about it by working with you, but how would you describe what Ideas is, and how did this arrive from that dream immigration documentary release and national tour?
Yeah, so Ideas did arise out of the fact that I looked around and I said to myself, it's great that I can do this national tour with this documentary, bring attention to dreamers and deferred action for childhood arrivals. The documentary was finished in 2014. Between 2014 and 2015, I went on the road with it. I met up with many people in many, many different places. It actually took me back to my birthplace, which is Ames, Iowa. And I talked to people in Iowa. I talked to people on the West Coast. I talked to people on the East Coast. And even though the conversations were extremely fruitful, again, I realized that there were no tied action steps that could be tied to the actual documentary. And I started thinking about how would we do this online. And I came up with the idea for Ideas, which is very, very simple. Have content, most of it video content, that explains certain issues and invite the community to not only provide their answers or continued conversation, but definitely provide the next action steps and connect people to organizations on the ground that are already doing something about these issues, because there's so many of them, and really get them to participate in the process of civic action. And happy to say that that idea has evolved quite a bit, and I'm hoping that ideas will be launched early next year.
That's awesome. And so when you talk about this kind of online community, what's an example of the kind of feature, or because we know a lot of clicktivist sites and a lot of petition and change kind of sites, what makes ideas different in terms of that action component?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
So,
impact, maybe we should be saying impact.
yeah, I think it's absolutely great when people have the motivation to actually sign a petition, to actually send some money, donate to involved organizations that are actually doing work on the ground. But it would be so much better if they actually took those examples that they've seen and made them become a reality in their locality or their region or wherever it is that they live. And the intent with ideas is to provide those next action steps for individuals to work with either organizations that may or may not be doing that work in their locality, or that provide them the steps that they need to take to actually start a sub organization that could help. I think, I'll repeat myself, I think that signing petitions and donating is fantastic. I mean, look at what happened with the ACLU. When there was a ban on certain Muslim countries to travel to the United States, and the immediate response by the population was just so heartening. It was fantastic that the ACLU received so much money. But look at the kind of work that Indivisible is doing and how they have managed to create a fervor in the population to be able to really, in almost every locality in the United States, start a unit that is working towards certain kinds of causes and addressing certain kinds of issues. And they're doing it very, very successfully. We want to be the online destination for folks who are concerned about issues that affect Latino youth, Latino and Hispanic youth in the United States, and even more abroad, and to take up the necessary steps by which to you really work on the ground to be able to bring about change.
Awesome. So 5 years from now, I wonder what 5 years from now will be like. 5 years from now, Ideas has been a smash success, which I'm sure it will. What would Ideas have done for Hispanic Latinos 18 to 25 in a 5-year look back? What would you accomplish in your strategic planning by, say, 5 years from now?
Well, hopefully we'll have reached out to a population of a certain age here in the United States. It's almost 30 million strong. The population of Hispanics and Latinos in the United States right now is 60 million strong, and the age group that we're trying to go after is up to 35 years old. In that population is 30 million, and hopefully we'll have given them the means and the ability to attain higher education, to attain work, also give them the ability to get involved in environmental and other issues that are affecting us today, like climate change, but there are so many other issues that are also affecting us that are a subset of climate change, and civic issues that are affecting us throughout the United States. So a percentage of that, 10 million or so strong, would be great if they've come to the site, learned something, and then taken a next action step to better their lives and better the lives of their communities throughout the United States. That would be a dream come true.
That's great, Aldo. And one of the greatest things I ever learned, from you in hearing about this project is whether it's ideas or ideas, it's the same thing, and we both need to come together, English speakers, Spanish speakers, to see this success and make these positive changes in our community. And with you, I think it can be done. So good luck, and thank you for sharing this impact story about ideas and or ideas. And thank you for being an ally of social impact.
No problem. Thanks, Michael.
Talk to you soon.
All righty.